Hey, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all, buddy. So, bit of a different video today, something a bit more cheerful, as they would say. Well, as cheerful as it can be.
We have CalebHammer on JRE talking about the victim mentality and how that's affecting economics for individuals in the United States and functionally in the G20 countries. If you understand that one
Yeah,
portion of society spends over $500,000 more than the other half, you'll get kind of a grip on it. So we'll start this thing out, and we'll have some opinions because that's what we do.
Well, I think, again, what you're saying earlier about social media and these echo chambers is really important because in their world, this is the only thing to do. And that all just gets this feedback loop where it's the right thing to do, the only thing to do. And they come up with reasons why it's not working and then call everybody Nazis.
Yeah, and that's why also those echo chambers are why, when polled, younger people are more okay with violence against people on the other side of the political aisle from them, which is a very scary place to go.
Yeah.
It's very scary, especially when I see death threats all the time in my inbox. And
So understand that CalebHammer is an economist online that helps people balance their budgets. We did an three arc thing on him before with a very nice young lady from the Pacific Northwest, where she was spending way more than she had, fell in love with her credit cards and things, and we were looking at the interest rates. They've been convinced that you need to have these kind of emotional relationships with your credit card, and they're the best. And then you end up in bad places, and you end up using Klarna or some other, 12-step program of payment.
that's one thing. I would say more people in the United States live in debt than even in most other G20s. It's very much everyone puts everything on a card over there. Is that right?
Well, it's a debt-based society. So when the Federal Reserve prints money, it comes with some acceleration. So it forces the economy to move a little bit. But when it stops moving and the money is given to the large banking institutions, so they get to buy or loan out at an effective rate where the market hasn't been affected by the money that's entered the system. So the inflation doesn't hit till it gets to Joe Schmo on the corner, around the block. And then at that point, all the prices are raised. So the money isn't worth as much as it was before. So it's hugely advantageous. But with the echo chamber thing also, that's not the best. That's why certain groups are more okay, right? It's permissible, right, to affect a violent stance because they've been brainwashed into thinking either side, end of the spectrum, it's okay to motivate people with violence, right? But in a permissive society,
we see that quite a lot on when we're, say, researching certain stories. It's very quick for a lot of the pundits not to directly call out for violence, but hint very strongly towards that way.
You know what it reminds
me of? The line they walk.
It reminds me of somebody who uses the phrase, I'm just saying. What you're saying is it's permissive. In a permissive society where things are accepted and they're way outside the Overton window, well, we'll just do that. Not acceptable.
Yes, but the funny thing is, I always see it with a lot of these pundits. If somebody calls them out, they clutch their pearls. But it's okay for them to, hint towards violence, not call it, but hint towards it.
Correct.
And by the way, on both sides of the aisle, I can see it.
Oh, for sure.
Doxing and shit like that. They call me a fascist for saying don't spend more money than you make. Okay, so I'm a fascist. Now I'm afraid for my life and I have to get security and all this stuff. It's crazy.
So you get threats for what specifically do they get upset at? It's literally just saying don't spend your money?
It's everything. They don't like that I do roasts. Consensual roasts. Like I call a fat bitch a fat bitch. But I had the conversation with her before, and if she didn't want me to, I wouldn't have done that. Because we have a no-no list where people get to say what they don't want us to talk about, and then I just won't talk about that. But
that's very nice of you.
It is.
That is consensual. So someone says, hey, Caleb, you can say naughty things about my weight, my finances, my whatever. So that way you can be a more legitimate individual. Like if you have an opinion, put it out there, we'll work with it. But he's not a fascist when he says, don't spend more money than you have. You don't have the money, don't buy the thing. And
I think the sad thing is, a lot of people do not want to hear that message. Because they want the shiny car now, and they want to get the crazy loans so they can show off on Instagram or whatever else. Not realizing this comes with a massive cost. Like, I remember the show that we did with this one particular young lady. And she spent $100 on, remember, the hairdryer?
Yes.
And he broke it down. By the time she has that paid off, it was going to be just shy of $300 she's paying back on that $100 purchase.
Right. On a card that had a $2,000 limit, and she would buy stuff on the card when she got enough room. When she had $42 on there, she'd buy $41.98 of stuff. Right?
Yes.
It's in her
mainly
card.
weed, if I remember
And lots of weed. Right.
Lots of weed.
But she would wait until she got that space clear on the credit card. So then it's at max, it's at 29%. So for her $41 order, she'd end up paying $95 or $96 for those items, right? Because they wouldn't get paid off, and there's interest accruing from all of the purchases.
And plus there's late fees. I remember when we looked up, was it Carner? What's the particular card we looked up at the time? I remember now.
It was a cosmetics card for a cosmetics company. No,
it was a pink company anyway. Was it Carner?
Klarna was bad. Klarna was also on there, but the credit card we were talking about was for a beauty supply place.
Oh, yes. That was a particular one where...
Right, because it was her first credit card, and it was her only favorite one ever.
Yeah.
And she would just use it.
She really loved it, yeah. Wasn't that the one with the 30-odd% interest rate? And then had massive fees if we went over the balance in the whole 9 years.
Yes, and it went over the balance.
I was saying to you that is banned. Those type of interest rates are banned in the EU, in the European Union. I think for this particular reason, because, we had this whole 2008 crash where people were just living way beyond their means. And there's a whole different other reason, but many people just borrowed a lot of money. With crazy interest rate, and it was just madness.
It's usury. It's not an acceptable rate. It's usury. It is, I'm going to way overcharge you for the convenience of doing this now.
They basically called it what it was. It was basically daylight robbery.
And on top of that, they would pay back way over the amount that they had charged, but it still wasn't enough to satisfy the account. So then the account would close, and they would get hit with this zombie debt down the line.
Yeah, we got rid of a lot of that. Like, one thing about the EU, when it comes to financial sector, we did kind of clean it up quite a bit. The US didn't seem to take those lessons after 2008 for whatever reason. But as you say, it's a debt-based economy, so yeah, it's interesting. Very, very interesting.
It's very nice. That's because we try to run, a moral, consensual show, all that good stuff. But I love to roast people and just call out their features and just dumb shit like that. So people get offended by that, offended on behalf of someone who's not offended in the first place, and then they get very angry. I got a death threat on Twitter yesterday for saying Americans spend too much money on cars. Wow. He said I should that it's crazy that CalebHammer is still breathing air, and that he should come up from San Antonio and kill me or something. I don't remember. It was something like that. It's kind of crazy because Americans spend too much money on cars.
Maybe he sells cars.
Maybe, but objectively, we do.
Did you check his profile? Is it a real person?
It said San Antonio. That's all I know. That's all I know. I'm sure it was like
could be a bot.
Second profile. He was responding to it. He was excited. He got his attention.
Could be a crazy person.
Yeah.
So they call him names. They call him a fascist. He's making plain economic statements that make sense. We watched him go over multiple people's budgeting and their accounts and all the things they were doing. And he was saying very, very basic things. Okay, you have a 29% interest rate. You need to stop that. You are buying $600 a month in weed. Your boyfriend won't marry you because you're irresponsible with money, and you are plainly irresponsible with money.
Well, I watched quite a lot of his show, different episodes. It's very enjoyable, by the way, well worth watching. It definitely would make you think about the nature of debt, especially if you live in the United States. Well, there was one particular lady, I'm thinking of a car one, and she herself and her partner, not even her husband, they both had car loans. There were crazy interest rates on these car loans. First, they weren't even nice cars. I'm not judging, but they weren't really nice cars. I didn't think they looked nice, but hey. But they owed Queen bought them about 60,000 left on it. And I think it was a crazy interest rate. He was saying if you keep, overspending and going down this road, you're going to be both retired before these two cars are paid off. That's how bad it was.
It's not a good look.
That's not even including their mortgage and 1,000 different things they had going on.
Well, I don't even want to tell you. Like, I owe a lot on my vehicle, but I got a pretty decent interest rate. But my car payment is insane. I remember telling you the amount I paid for my car,
Yeah.
and you about choked on your tea or your coffee or your wine. You were drinking something, you almost choked on it. And I said,
Yes.
if I want a vehicle that's safe and functional, this is what I have to pay in the United States. It's what I'm forced to pay.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky enough. I know a good bit about cars in general, and I normally buy reliable second-hand cars for cash, by the way. So if something completely breaks in it, I just scrap it and get another one with cash.
But people don't have the acumen to do that in society now. They just don't.
No, they don't save. They want anything directly.
Don't have a place to work on their car, because in the United States, you're not really allowed to work on your car on the street. So then you have to find a place where you can work on it, even if you know how to do it. So there's a lot of bars in place to be obstructed from performing that action, right?
Most people have driveways, don't they?
Not in apartment complexes, and the people who live in apartment complexes are more likely the ones that are going to have vehicles that go down. And then if it goes down and you don't have gap insurance because there's an accident or something happens to the vehicle, then you have to pay this car off even though you no longer have it, and try and secure another loan.
Yeah, I see that with an awful lot of young people. They borrow money to get their first car. I've seen this happen. Then they turn around and get third-party fire and theft. And then, surprise, surprise, they could just hit a bad piece of ice. No fault of their own. Things happen on the road, and the cars are write-off. As you say, it's like having no gap insurance in the United States.
Well, there's also
banks still wants their money.
There's two kinds of gap insurance. So gap it pays back the vehicle if something were to happen to it, and you can get insured for the difference from the amount that the vehicle is worth versus the loan you have on it in your car insurance policy.
Oh,
if
that's
it's
useful.
through USA,
well, we just call it comprehensive, straightforward, and simple. It's just I know a lot of young people say, "Oh, I'm not spending that much." I said, "You're going to spend a lot more paying back on a car that you don't actually have if anything does happen."
Right. And I don't think CalebHammer is a fascist for saying you should manage your money better, and then people get excited to call him out. Like, he's not a right-wing guy, he's not a left-wing guy, he's a you should be smarter with your money guy, and here's some tools to do it, right? And he's showing other people by showing some people's really bad budgeting habits and what they choose to do with money they don't even really have. And then it ends up being a bankruptcy or subject to zombie debt, which is horrible in the United States.
Yeah.
So companies will buy your debt for pennies on the dollar and then try and force you as a third party to pay things off. Now, understand, if there's a third party, you can actually remove that third party from the process legally and pay the debt back to the primary source from which you got the money loaned. But people don't do that. And the zombie companies file in court, they file a civil action, and then you're forced to pay because they get a judgment, because a lot of times you don't even get the summons. You don't even get the paperwork. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
There seems to be very few safeguards when it comes to the financial sector over there. Is that right? For the normal customer.
If you decide to take the time to read the contract on your card before you get it, or the loan before it's established, you will have more appropriate ways to curb that. The biggest one is don't take out more money than you can pay back, because having enough money is more an aspect of having enough time. So you borrow now, and then over time with interest, and hopefully your labor gets paid more than it is now, and you can close the gap and get the thing paid off. But people aren't doing that. They're getting 5 and 6 credit cards and then going on Klarna, paying things off in 4 and 5 payments. Like, we were looking at it before. So someone who can't afford a Taco Supreme orders it and then pays for it by using Klarna, right? They're probably not going to be able to pay back Klarna or Taco Bell.
That's what he actually said in that particular show, by the way, to her.
That
particular lady.
It was pretty bad.
It was absolutely nuts, absolutely crazy. But even when I watch other shows, they do the worst thing I've ever seen people do. They take their credit card on holidays with them. Now, if you're on holidays and you're after a few beers or whatever, you're not going to make good financial purchases.
Yeah, you're going to go to the souvenir shop and buy something that says I was here.
Oh, I wore, some of them actually went to the casinos.
That's probably not safe.
Yeah, it's not the best. No.
Yeah.
And we get emails all the time. No, people think I'm evil because they say I don't talk about the issues that led us here in the first place. But it's a personal responsibility show because more people have agency than they're willing to acknowledge.
Right.
Like, we're in the highest disposable income society in the history of human existence. Not everything's perfect. Cost of housing's gone up. Cost of school's gone up. Cost of healthcare's gone up. We can acknowledge those realities. But people have agency. People have agency. The amount of going out to eat among the Generation Z is insane compared to any other generation. And not only that, but now for 25% of their going out to eat multiple times a week is getting food delivered. And that has a 90% markup. 90%. And then they're complaining that they can't afford to pretty much do anything, get a nice apartment or whatnot. But if we're spending like $1,000 a month, which is very normal for a person on my show, going out to eat, you're right, you can't get a apartment of your dreams when $1,000 a month is going to McDonald's and other places.
So $1,000 a month, at least where I'm at, doesn't represent even a low end apartment. Really, you could probably rent a room for about $1,000 a month, but if you have enough to be able to have things delivered because you don't want to go to the store or you want to go out and eat, the markup, the logistics has gotten a lot worse, and especially with fuel prices and all the other factors involved in that. So if you're spending over $1,000 a month to go out to eat a month, you should probably just watch a cooking show and figure out how to cook an egg.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to make a social welfare sandwich. You can get the peanut butter and the jelly and some bread.
What I'm trying to say, I've always said the most important skill you'll ever learn as a young person is how to cook.
Well, budgeting
and how to cook. It's very, very important. Because it is very, very expensive, and he's right. Even here in Ireland, it's very expensive to eat out every single day. And it's not that expensive to do a proper week's shop. If you make out your lists properly, you know what meals you're making, you're talking about between 45 55 per person per week, easily.
When you sent me the tab, when you sent me a picture of the tab from your Cork City dining experience, it was more expensive than I would pay in California for the amount of people that ate. I was shocked.
Yeah. Oh, which one was that? Oh, that was about 6 or 7 of us. If I remember right, it was one. I think it was one of the buddies' parties. Yeah.
Well,
6 or 7 people, 3 courses each.
And the alcohol on your tab was very, very expensive. I was like, oh, I don't pay that much for a Guinness here. Like, you're crazy.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
No, we had about 3 or 4 drinks each. Just bear that in mind.
Right. Well, and that's not bad if you have a couple of
it's
beers.
Not bad.
Yeah.
If I remember the same restaurant, it was $6.30 for a beer per pint.
Right. And if all of you have 3 or 4, that's even at just 3 for 7 people. That's 21 at $7. Right. That's going to jack your bill up. I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of money. And that was before the steaks and the prawns.
When you break
and
it down and what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we break it down, we got 3 courses. We all ordered different stuff. 3 main each. Most of us got desserts with 3 beers each. It was about average. But you have to remember, those are kind of special occasions. Now, have I gone to the Cork City and eaten out every now and again? Yes, but most places are between 25, 30 with a beer.
Right, so that's euros. So what's that, like $50 American?
About, say about $35, $40.
Okay.
Down that way.
Normally you're telling me it's $600 or $700 to a euro or something. I'm like, they're not pesos. You're being mean.
Yes, but I do leave a tip, which is probably strange. I do leave a tip normally. So if it comes to, say, 35, I'll put 40 down. Or if it comes to, sometimes whatever I have change left over, I put as a tip. We know tipping is not really a thing you see in Ireland. I do because I worked in the industry for myself for years.
Well, tipping in the United States is like, it's almost compulsory. Like, every time you eat, you will tip, right? Like,
and you're saying it's actually on the card machine, is it?
Sometimes. So if you have over a certain amount in your party, there's called a gratuity fee, and they'll charge you 15%. If you seat 8 people, they're going to charge you 15%. for the service. So, but the service money does go to the employee who is serving you. Not only that, we have certain laws here where those who are in the service industry and are serving the food get a lower wage than is minimum wage because it is expected they will receive X amount in tips. So now, since Donald Trump has put in the no tax on tips, the service industry, the people who are servers, waitresses, waiters, whatever it is, the sommelier, like they're all making that money, and it's not taxed, which is amazing. That is doing a great thing.
Is that federally taxed or not state taxed?
It's not federally taxed.
It's not federally, so they still have to pay the state tax on it.
It depends on that state's law. If the state doesn't have an income tax, California, you will get charged for it, but other places don't have a state income tax, so they don't get hit at all. So it gives them a little bit more room to breathe and to
a bit more wiggle room, which is fair enough. But how come you have to remember we have a different minimum wage policy over here. But I do tip. I think it's a good idea to tip.
Good for you.
You'll learn no matter where you go in the world, by the way, I always do it.
Well, you'll learn about it next week in the United States, bud.
Yeah, I will.
Places. Cooking at home's become like a burden, become a victim complex now. Well, actually, that was another thing that triggered the internet. I kind of agreed with Kevin O'Leary when it said, oh, young people are broke because they spent $28 going out to eat. Well, it's not that specifically only, but it's the death of of 1,000 cuts. And yes, just $28 3 times a week becomes an actual halfway decent retirement fund if you put it in the S&P 500 for a few times a week. That does put off future goals that you have. And the internet went crazy against me. They hated me for suggesting that they shouldn't be able to. They're like, well, how do we eat? Groceries, meal prep, meal plan. This is what everyone's done since forever.
He's right. So it's $75 a week, $300 a month. If you were to invest that in an EFT or
half decent mutual fund. Yeah,
right, for sure. So you get a retirement vehicle, 401k, 457, Roth IRA, whatever, tax in front as opposed to tax it back. There's a lot of things you can do with $300 a month.
Okay. A lot. Or pay back a lot of the debt that you have.
Right. That's $3,600 a year. If you are investing $3,600 a year over 40 years of working, that's going to yield you a return that you can retire on. That's all he's saying. That $300, hey, put it somewhere where it's going to pay when you don't have an income.
I know lots of young people. I worked with lots of them in different industries. In the last, 10 years, roughly, the way the coffee shops really just blew up everywhere. I've watched young people spend at least 10 to 15 euros a day just on coffee and whatever else down the local coffee shop.
Oh, you mean bullshit?
Bullshit, yeah. It doesn't sound like a lot. But towards because we were paid monthly, because they get the morning coffee, which you with a bun, obviously, because God forbid should you have breakfast before you leave the house. Then they have lunch. They go out and eat lunch Monday to Friday when they're working. But I watched them. I added up one day. I watched one particular young lady I worked with. She was mid-20s. She spent the bones of at least 300 euros a week, Monday to Friday, just on BS.
Right. That's $1,200 in a month. That's crazy. That's not.
She would have the morning coffee, obviously, with a bun. Then she would eat out. Then she would grab another coffee and something else on the way home. We added it up one day for her, and she was absolutely shocked. And this is the same girl who was always, that person at the third week of the month who's always broke.
Oh yeah,
always asking you for a loan because they're broke. Yeah,
right. Well, when you get paid monthly, that's a bit of a problem. If in week 3 you're
then you really
done.
have to know how to budget. By the way,
right? You have to be a little bit more on the spot with it.
Oh yes.
We live in the best period ever for humans. Best period ever. Our jobs are better. Everything's better. Even when you think of like buying the starter home in the 50s and whatever, they were like the size of this room that we're in right now, mass produced. Okay, that's still a home that's great you could buy, but you were going to a job that you hated, that you were sweating, that had no AC, where you're working with your hands all day, and it was miserable. They didn't like the jobs. They liked that they had a good paying job. But now people go to the office and they think they're a victim for not being able to meal prep before going to the office, the A-seed office. Like, it's hard for me to sympathize with that, especially when I film 3 of them a week. All 100% real people, mostly Gen Z and millennials, who are absolute victims in everything. They are victims in everything. They think if they don't get a 2027 brand new car instead of a 2025 car, that they're going to die. That all of a sudden cars 2 years ago were the most dangerous things. They have to get a $60,000 to $70,000 car loan at a 20% interest rate, or else their kids will die.
You've actually had that conversation?
Oh,
where they think that they're
time.
going to die?
No, because the excuses they use is that I wanted a safe car for my kids. That's fine. But is the insinuation that 2024, 2023, 2022 cars would literally go on the highway and blow up? Like, I don't understand. They insist if they don't get a brand new car, that it is not a safe car.
Completely untrue.
Oh, wow.
A 2022 is a pretty good car if it's still on the road and you get it checked by Carfax. It'll tell you if there's been a problem, or if the vehicle's been in an accident, or if it's a salvage title, which means there was work done on the frame and the engine. They're safe cars. And for someone to say, if I don't get a brand new car, it's not safe, is more a statusy kind of symbol than it is an indication the vehicle's unsafe.
I'll be honest with you. I find older cars, a lot of some older model cars, have got great character and look great. Some of them actually look better than some of their modern versions. But it's up to everyone. At the end of the day, you cut your cloth and your measure. Can you realistically afford to borrow 50 or 60 grand for a car? If the answer is, oh, maybe it might be a bit tight, the answer is no. There should be no maybe in that equation. There is not one thing wrong with buying a car that's 10 plus years old. It'll run the same way. The only thing is, when you're getting it checked out, bring a mechanic with you. Or if you don't know a mechanic, just everyone knows a car guy. Bring them with you when you're checking it out. And 9 times out of 10, there's very little wrong with them.
Well, here's the other side of that coin.
They might be a bit faded on the paint work, but you're paying for it in cash. You're no bank on and if you've got 4 or 5 or even sometimes longer out of it, that's more than make up for status symbol.
Well, here's the other one. In the United States, people will get car loans, and because they have computers in the vehicle, what'll happen is if you don't pay your car payment, they'll shut your car off and you cannot start your vehicle again until you pay your car payment.
Oh my.
You literally cannot be late. If your payment is, yeah, for sure. If your vehicle's payment is due on the 1st, midnight on the first, and they'll be calling you in the afternoon on the 1st, where's your car payment? And you're like, I don't get paid till midnight. Cool. You'll get up in the morning, your vehicle will not start. And you'll call them and say, hey, I've got your payment. They're like, okay, cool. And then they'll process your payment. And as soon as your payment processes, then they'll turn your car back on.
Oh, wow. And people agree to all this.
Well, they really want a vehicle. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's right. What was wrong with that person getting a car 10 plus years old and paying it off straight away?
I've had older vehicles. They don't bother me.
Yeah.
Not only that, know they're safer because they've been on the road for a while, right? A brand new thing, you might not know if it's good.
To be honest, a lot of the older cars too are easier to maintain at home yourself if you have the space. So you can change your own oil easier. There's a lot of these small things that will save you a fortune or save you from going to an actual garage and getting it done.
The mechanic shop can be interesting and expensive for sure.
Yes, but there's, as I say, look, you don't have to be the greatest mechanic in the world to check your spark plugs and everything else. There's tons of resources on YouTube. There's tons of resources out there.
Well, and cars are now made in such a way that you cannot do it on your own because it has a special plate on the top, and you have to bring it to the mechanic because the mechanic has to use a special tool to remove the plate.
People laugh at me when I get older cars. But what they don't realize is their new modern car, if the electrics say fail in that's everything shut down that car. The new modern ones. Where with older cars, the electrics are really on different sections. In Fords in particular, they're all in different sections. So if there's a short, say, in your dashboard, it's just your dashboard lights will go, that your entire car won't shut down on the side of the road. Which I've seen with a lot of the modern cars. Everything is just so heavily computerized, it's as you said, nearly impossible to do self-maintenance anymore.
Right.
Which
you
is
go to the
another
car,
scam.
you check your fuse box, make sure you don't have anything burned out. Then you plug in the machine, run the code, or bring it over just around the block, and they'll run the code for you and they say you have X code, so it looks like this. And then you take it home and you pull the part, and you're like, cool, okay. You go get your core, and then you turn it in when you fix the piece of the car that's busted. And you can do that. Like, it's a thing you can do. Can't do it on new vehicles because there's so many. And here's the other one they do. They have a proprietary set of tools that you must use to work on their vehicles. Older vehicles, get your metric or freedom unit socket wrench off the thing, pull it off, check the turbo, check the water pump. Oh, the radiator's messed up. Cool. Like, take the front end off just a little bit, back it up, pull it out, put in the new radiator, boom, done. Connect the hoses. Put your regulator on there, done. Like, I've
seen it. I've seen it so many times with young people. They go away, they're all excited. I know they're all excited to get their first license. They go and buy a reasonably enough new car, say 1 or 2 years old. Spend a fortune on it. And they're just apps. I always said to young people, if you're starting driving, say it's your first license, go on to Done Deal or whatever second-hand car place you can think of and find a car for 2,000 euros. Oh, but they look like rubbish. Yes, but by the time you're finished with it, it'll probably look worse because you're going to bang into things. You're a new driver. You're going to misjudge that corner. You're going to either you're going to clip the side. You're going to do all the things that we all know that young drivers do. No, never actually. Do you know what, young people, just don't buy new cars. Just go and get a nice second-hand car because you're going to make absolute rubbish of it in less than a couple of months.
Well, and then learn how to change your oil. Learn how to change a tire.
Yes.
Which are all things that should be on a driving test.
That you can do with older vehicles quite easily.
Right.
By the way.
Almost impossible in some of the new ones. Right.
The new ones, sometimes you need a master's in engineering. I remember one time I was driving one of those fancy, test driving one of these fancy new vans. You know, had all the bells and whistles. Now, this thing was just crazy. And I was looking at it, and I said to the salesman, I said, any chance we could just pop the bonnet? Well, I said, just pop the bonnet. Just want to have a look. So in fairness, he indulged me. We popped it. I've never seen so much computer hardware in one place in an engine. I mean, if this thing broke down on the side of the road, there's not hope in the world that the normal call-out guy is going to fix this.
Right. Special tools, special diagnostic tools.
Oh, it was crazy.
And to get the appropriate diagnostic tools to load that software into the machine that checks.
Oh yeah, cost money. Yeah.
$10,000 or $15,000.
Yeah, I was talking to our company manager afterwards about it. I said, if you get those and they break down, there's none of the roadside assist can fix that for us. Nobody.
Right, and then you have to get proprietary service contracts with whoever, Mercedes, Kia, Toyota, whatever.
You never thought, a lot of these, by the way, logistic guys don't really think that far ahead.
That is an argument every time with Americans. The $1.6 trillion or $1.5 trillion in car loan debt.
So do you think that's just a lack of education? Because like a car from 2020 is just as safe as a car from 2026. There's no difference.
Absolutely.
There's no difference in airbags, no difference in anti-lock brakes. There's very few differences in any of the technology involved. In fact, I tell people, especially people that want a nice car, one of the best investments you can get is get an electric car that's about 2 years old. Electric Porsches and electric Audis in particular, fucking nobody wants them, man. Nobody wants the used ones. And they're still great.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, let's look up an Audi e-tron. Look up a 2023 Audi e-tron.
Also, those batteries have a 10-year warranty regardless of owner, generally speaking. So the car is just as good. Right now, understand that it is expensive to charge those vehicles. You have to charge them at your house. You have to get a special system put in to charge them unless your place of work provides it.
Actually, there's, funny enough about that, there's actually a government grant here in Ireland where you can get them, where the government would pay most of it for you to get it fitted to your house. Yeah.
Which is awesome. But the problem is then that regulates that thing. And then they can attempt to say, well, a huge proportion of people have these electrical things. And so as opposed to paying a petrol company over at the, what do you call them over there? Where you fuel up your car?
Stations.
Well, no, not gas stations. There was another word you used.
Yeah, service station, petrol station. No, we call it a petrol station.
Crossover?
Even though most of the vehicles I was driving at the time were diesel.
A forecourt? You call it a forecourt?
Or forecourt, yes.
What is that?
Well, forecourts are a bit more fancier than your normal petrol station. The forecourts have all the bells and whistles. They got the the restaurants,
and the snacks and things.
It's the whole experience.
Okay, so
I think pretty much a lot of people are used to the forecourts, especially the one going on the main Dublin road.
The next time,
some really good. There's some really good ones there.
You come to the United States after you visit this time California. You need to go to Texas and go to a place called Buc-ee's. It makes truck stops and forecourts look like crap. It is the best. You can buy everything from potato chips to a kayak, right? Like, it's incredible.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Actually, yeah, a lot of forecourts actually, believe it or not, over here in Ireland are pretty much the same way. I've often bought garden supplies actually in forecourts, especially on the Dublin one.
Nice.
It's very, very convenient, especially when you have the van. So you walk around, technically you're filling up in diesel, and technically, you can,
Fit a couple bigger things, yeah, for sure.
Put your own stuff in the back, as they would say.
There you go.
How much does it cost now to buy, and what was it new? I think it's like less than 50%.
Yeah.
So there's certain cars where you buy them and they're worth as much a couple years later, like a nice BMW or a Porsche. Like, you could get an M5, a BMW M5, and then sell it a year or two later and lose very little money, if any. You get a fucking electric car and you try to sell that bitch in a couple of years, like an electric Porsche. Okay, look at this. 2022 Audi e-tron, $25,000. 2023 Audi e-tron, $27,000. Do you know how fucking crazy that is? That is a 2023 amazing car. Those cars are fucking incredible. It's a technological tour de force. They're fast as shit. It's all-wheel drive. It's an SUV, a premium plus quattro, $27,000. It only has 37,000 miles on it. Those things don't have engines, like a combustion engine. Yeah. They don't have nearly the kind of maintenance that a regular car does. You don't have to change the oil. You just plug that bitch in. You have a fucking amazing car. Yeah, the battery range is not the longest.
That's the excuse they use.
226 miles is plenty for you to get to work and get home.
Thank you.
And go out to dinner, and you can plug that bitch in. I have a Tesla, and it has like... It's a Model S. What does the Model S have? 340?
I can understand this argument that this person might not have anywhere then to charge it unless
that's
it's
an issue.
At their
that's
work.
So easy to get in your house now.
Yeah,
but if you live in an apartment, that's totally fair.
Not easy at all.
Yeah, and if you go to one of those charging stations, you're very vulnerable. If I was a chick, I'd never get an electric car if I didn't have a house.
You have to do it every single day.
Every day.
Versus like gas station once or something.
And like, how long does it take to charge up one of those bitches?
30 to 45 minutes.
So you'd have to 30, 40 minutes every day. Yeah.
That'd be 30 to 40 minutes exposed in a place that isn't your home or your residence. And if you're in a place that disallows the carrying of firearms for defense purposes, you can be in a real pickle, right? Especially because men have the monopoly on use of force, and a female who's out in a space like that could be vulnerable. So I can understand why they would not want that. I'm not particularly a fan of electric vehicles because we don't have the energy.
Women can't have guns too?
No, they can have guns, but if you're in a state that disallows it and somebody who's a perpetrator...
2 seconds.
Go ahead.
Women have guns in the United States too, don't they?
They do. They do.
Women have, yeah. So they can, defend themselves as well.
Right, but states...
I understand his point that
if you are
some states don't allow it, or
a place where you are vulnerable like that and you do not have access to firearms or effective access because your state has made rules and laws that make it very difficult to have them, to conceal carry them. If you don't have a concealed carry, you cannot have a firearm on your person or near your hand while you're operating a vehicle, which means that you're vulnerable and your bullets and your magazines and your firearm are in separate and distinct places and secured in your trunk or wherever in your vehicle where you cannot access it while you're operating the vehicle, right? So what happens is
okay, I understand his point now. What I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, he's right. If you're living in an area and charging stations are in a very awkward position, maybe it's not the thing for you. But if you have a private residence, it's a good economic investment.
Well, it is, but the other problem is our grid cannot handle that many charging stations pulling for 30 to 45 minutes. So we had a law or something that was passed by the state of
Well, that's
California.
funny because there was a guy there recently.
We were going to have all electric vehicles, or as many electric vehicles as we could possibly have. And then the next week they said, hey, we're using too much energy, so we're going to have rolling brownouts. So they're saying
there was a guy who launched a company there recently, SpaceX.
I
Tesla.
know that guy. What is his name?
Yeah, that Elon Musk.
Well,
He'll turn around and he's hoping to have so many hundreds of thousands of Teslas in the next couple of years in Europe and the US and everywhere else.
I don't know that our grid can handle it.
There was no answer of where the power is going to come from for all these electric vehicles. Right.
Compartmentalized nuclear power plants would go a very, very long way, and it's the greenest possible.
Yes, but they take years to build.
Right. We need in the United States, we need 5 terawatts to ensure that we could charge that many vehicles, and nuclear power is going to be the only way that that's going to happen. It just is. Right now, based on our technology, that's the way it's going to have to be done. But for some reason, the people that want green energy also don't want nuclear. They say we want green, but then they say, but we can't have nuclear power. But it's the greenest way to go. I don't know what the fear mongering is about.
There's I think a combination of a mixture of all technology across the board would help. That's my own personal opinion. I think a mixture of all technologies, because nuclear is going to take a while for that to build up.
Right, and wind and solar
especially in a lot of the states.
Wind and solar cost more than they produce.
Yes, I've seen that argument before.
Right, and all of those companies are
by the way, a lot of those reports, by the way,
to ensure that they can run their companies.
By the way,
right. So what happens is to run your green power, you need petrol, because you have to move the crude across the water. That crude has to get to a vehicle. Once it gets in the vehicle, it moves all of the pieces. And then by the time you install those pieces, the technology is already out of date. So then you have to replace the pieces, right? So we're not at a place.
I've seen all those. By the way, a lot of those reports, by the way,
is that you're not going to end up with a situation where you are having to spend more petrol as opposed to catching the technology up and waiting until it's good technology, right? And I understand there are companies that are saying, well, hey, this is all bad. Well, I understand that. But on its face, it's costing more petrol.
But it all comes down to a lot of these oil companies. But a lot of these oil companies release all these reports. They don't want green technology. Nobody wants it, especially in the oil industry.
Well, that's because the nuclear side's been pushed out of the equation as an effective solution to the problem.
It hasn't really. I think oil industry has a lot to do with why nuclear and green technology is being pushed to the forefront, because they benefit so much from our reliance on dinosaur juice. And plus the fact they have a monopoly on a lot of our governments as well, which probably doesn't help either.
I would say that it's not a big assist. No, it is absolutely not.
No. And especially if you put a guy in charge of certain countries who is, how can I put it, easily led by his wallet, doesn't really argument either.
Who would you possibly be talking about? Can't even think.
Maybe a guy who's building a golden ballroom at the moment.
Hey, Austin Powers says gold toilets are the best. I'll believe Austin Powers.
That's fair enough.
That's fair. But you're getting a fucking bitchin' car for $27,000.
And more apartment complexes are installing those charging stations anyway, that you can just leave your car in overnight.
I live in one, and you can never actually get to the thing.
Oh, why is it? Because someone's always in there?
Get to it and they never move their fucking car.
Oh, they keep it plugged in.
And I don't know whose it is. You can go call them and
flatten their tires. Don't do that. I'm just kidding.
But I try to think of options, right? Because there's even the options of the place you work might have one. Right outside my building, there's where we film is multiple car charging places. Park in, you go to work. So I'm not saying everyone can do it, but
if you can do it, it's a great option.
But even so, you can get used gas cars for relatively similar,
right?
But they will defend to the death on my show having to get a $60,000 large SUV at an insane interest rate for an 8-year loan, 8-year term. But no, you asked me why are they doing it? It's American, baby. That's American. That's freedom.
So if you say that I bought a car for way too much, I could have bought a car for half the cost for a loan that was better, you're not a victim. You're not a victim at all. You have made a bad decision, and you don't get to avoid accountability for that bad decision by saying,
You know what Dave Ramsey calls that? Stupid tax.
oh, right. Like the
Yes,
lottery, only
that's the tax you pay for being stupid, as they would say.
Or
And by the way, why do people live in cities need an SUV? Like, you're not going cross country when you're living in a city. Why do you need a massive 4-liter engine, whatever? You know, these crazy type of vehicles living in a town or city.
They believe it's safer to be able to view from a higher angle. And if something happens,
all right,
get hit,
okay.
so they're saying it's a safety issue. But the problem is you're still ideologically captured when you say I'm a victim because I forced myself to buy a $60,000 or $70,000 vehicle, which over 8 years is going to end up being $800 or $900 a month, and you're already tight on money. Buy the car that's a $250 pay. Get yourself a 2009 Honda Accord. Right? Get a Toyota.
Yep.
Corolla. They work. Just use that.
Yep.
Get your budget up.
Yeah, it's
and
simple.
then when you have the money to have status symbols, then do it then. Right?
Yes.
But you're hamstringing yourself, and it's going to cost you way more money than you're going to be making.
The worst of all is, he's right, a lot of the younger generation, it's not just the car debt. I know we're on about that now. But it's every other debt they have on top of them.
On top of taxes.
Trying to keep up with the Joneses on Instagram.
And the taxes, especially
taxes
in a lot of places in the United
every other
States,
living expense.
Horrible. All right.
It's absolutely crazy. As I said, I have very little sympathy for some of his guests. Some I do have sympathy for. I know people probably wouldn't agree with me.
All right.
Because they're not the sharpest tools in the box.
Well, they are the sharpest bowling pin. So I have a yes or no question for you. You ready? Do you have anything more for the good of the people, Patrick? Anything more for the good of the people? Are we good?
No, that's it. That's it. That's me done. And my internet is about to go. So let's start. I don't know. It's something weird.
Winding it down.
I'll check it here in a moment when we're finished.
For Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. Like, ring the bell, help us beat the algorithm. Please subscribe. For the A&P Gents, we are